Jasu ashu desu. Welcome again to another video. We're going to be talking about a news report about kansui. Hizashita made. So basically up until just below the knees. Suidokan koji no jutaku gai de. So suidokan is a water pipe. Koji is a type of construction or maintenance or whatever, right? It might call it koji desu ne. And Jutaku gai is kind of a residential district, residential area. De mizu fuki dasu. Alright, so it's always good to look at a map to see what we're actually talking about here. So this is the place where this happens. You read this as Kameido. When we zoom out a bit, when we have this area, this is Etoku. So this is one of the wards of Tokyo. So Tokyo kind of has a different setup to the rest of Japan. They have these 23 wards. This is just one of them. It's kind of referred to as Eto City as well, but that's this red area. So Kameido is a part of Etoku, which is then part of Tokyo-to. Now, I'm going to put a link to the article in the YouTube description box, so have a look at it yourself if you wish. I would definitely recommend watching this video as well, because it basically retells the article in a different way. And it's always good to hear different descriptions of the same event, so you can get used to different vocab, different ways of expressing yourself, etc. All right, first of all, we got our Jutaku gai ga kohanyi de. So Jutaku gai is our residential area. Kohanyi is like a wide area of some description there. Mizu bitashi. So mizu bitashi is basically be soaked in water. To nari, so it kind of becomes like this immediately. Sozen to narimashita. Sozen is a bit of an uproar. Okay, so basically the water starts to come out and suddenly everyone's kind of, not screaming, but everyone's yelling and stuff like that. So Tokyo, Etoku there, I already showed you on this on the map where this is. Suidokan, all right? So suido is like the water supply kind of, and kan is a pipe, right? So suidokan, water supply pipes. No koji genba. Now genba is the place where something happens. So the koji genba is where they're doing the repairs or maintenance to the suidokan. Now shuhen is added to this to mean the kind of surrounds, right? The shuhen is the surrounding areas. So the kind of surrounds of where they're doing this water pipe maintenance work. Mizu ga fuki dashite. Now fuki dasu is to kind of spurt out or to spray. Okay, fuku is to kind of erupt or something. You see it with volcanoes and other things like that. So fuki dashite, so water started spraying out of the ground. Doro ga kansuishi. Okay, so really I describe this as a kansui. Okay, now kan, this first kanji is Kamburi, which is a crown, and sui, well, this is mizu, right? It's water. So kansui just means something is covered by water. So doro ga kansuishi, the road gets covered with water. Ichiji, kind of temporarily. Hizashita hodo no takasa made. Now takasa, this is our e adjective that we change the e to a sa, and it changes the word tall, so takai, from tall to height. Okay, so hizashita hodo no takasa, so to about the height below the knee. And again, if you watch the video, one of the witnesses explains it, and she actually points to a leg. You get a better idea of what hizashita hodo no takasa is. So basically this area under the knee, made mizu ga afuremashita. Now afuremashita just means to kind of burble over, right? To kind of overflow. Okay, so basically water is coming up into the knee. 26 nichi gogo 3時 ski, so about just after 3 o'clock on the afternoon of the 26th, Etoku Kameido de satsue sareta eizo ni wa, so in the pictures taken at Kameido, doro kara tairyou no mizu ga afure dette imasu. So doro kara, from the road, tairyou no mizu, so a large quantity of water, ga afure dette imasu, is kind of coming forth, it's getting spurted out. Juki ga sagyou shiteiru basho kara afure dashita mizu. Alright, so juki, I mean, looking at the kanji for this, it should be kind of self-explanatory, but this is omoi, okay? It means heavy, of course, and this is ki. Now, this is often used on the ends of many words to denote a machine. We've got things like sojiki, shokusenki, sentakki. All right, so when we see ki on the end, this kanji ki on the end of words, it's the machine really. So heavy machinery, right? We're talking about excavators and these kinds of things. が作業している場所から. Right? So obviously the heavy machinery is kind of digging into the road or whatever. And then から溢れ出した水. And then the place where they're doing the work is where the water is coming from. 水の広がりを抑えようと作業員はどのを置きますか? Alright, so 水の光, the spreading of the water, を抑えようと. So ようと is kind of like when you're making an attempt to do something, and 抑える is to hold down or suppress something. So obviously the water starts coming up and then the workers are like, uh-oh, and they try and do something about it, right? So they try and stop it. And the sagyoin, these are the workers, all right? So the people who were there when it happened. And then a dono is a sandbag, okay? So normally this no actually has a kanji, which I think is fukuro, but it's the kind of rarer kanji for fukuro. So it doesn't get used much. And this word always basically gets written like this. The do is in kanji, but the no is in hiragana. So okimasu ka. So they put the sandbags down, but 水は広範囲に広がっていました. But the water just kept on spreading into a wide area. 警視庁によりますと, so according to the police department, 26日午後3時前, before 3 o'clock, 道路が冠水している. Well, the road is the thing that is covered by water. と, so this is a quote, 110番通報がありました. Now, 110番 is the emergency line in Japan, and 通報 is like a notification or something. So basically someone's called up and they said this bit in these square brackets here. The road is covered with water. Right? So about 3. 住宅街の道路から水がかなり激しく溢れています. Now, 激しく溢れています. Well, this is from 激しい, which is like vigorous or like really kind of overwhelming. Here, like, the water's like spurting out with high pressure, all right? So it's kind of that type of vigorous. Furetemasu, we talked about this is kind of overflowing. And we've also got another word here, kanari, which is considerable, okay? And we see that hageshiku comes from hageshi, which is the e is being replaced with a ku here to act as an adverb. So it's modifying afuretemasu. It's not just spurting out of the ground, it's spurting out of the ground with like a lot of vigor and a considerable amount. Genba wa, so again we had Genba before, but this is the area where this actual thing happened. JR Sobusen. All right, so this is JR Japan Railways. So this is just the name of the train line, Sobu, the Sobu line. And then we can see down here, we've got the train line running across, and we see it says Sobu Honsen. So the Sobu main line. And then we have the Sobu Sen, which is the Sobu line. So we have the Sobu Sen no Kameido Eki kara, so from Kameido Eki, 600 meter hodo no Jutaku gai. So from about 600 meters from the Kameido station, we have this residential housing block. 通報から1時間以上経っても, so even after 1 hour has passed since the notification to the emergency services, 止まることがなく, all right, they can't stop the water. 溢れ出る水, the water is still coming out and overflowing. 東京消防庁によりますと, so now we're involving the Tokyo Fire Department. 水道管の取り替え工事中に, all right, so during the replacing of water pipes, バルブが破損したということです. Alright, so バルブ, the valve が破損した, broke, right? It kind of got destroyed ということです, right? So obviously they're trying to change the water pipes, somehow the valve is broken, and then this has just led water flowing down through the pipe. 家のすぐ目の前まで水が来たという住民は. Jumin are just inhabitants, right? We can see it's a similar kanji to Jutaku gai. 家のすぐ目の前. Now, 目の前, if you can think about this literally, like 目の前, in front of the eyes, but it just means something that's directly in front of you. 目の前, it's only a few meters away. So 家のすぐ目の前 means directly in front of the houses, right? The houses of this residential place. まで水が来たという住民は. All right, so basically they've done some interviews with some people on the ground who live there, and they're like, yeah, the water came right up to my house. 近所の人 So this is the people in the neighborhood. すごいもんですね。水が溢れるというのは. Alright, it's a bit of casual Japanese here with this mon here. This is a shortening of mono, which is really just used here to, すごいもの. It's an amazing thing. 水が溢れるというのは. This is kind of how spoken language is sometimes, right? It's not quite the same as when you write an article. You can't really, when you're speaking, you don't exactly know what you're going to say next. But so sometimes you'll say something like, oh, it's amazing. And then say, well, what's amazing? Oh, well, the water spurting out of the ground is. Okay, so you would kind of expect these to be the other way around if this was written Japanese. But spoken language, it's kind of a lot more dynamic. Nanboku ni oyoso 200 meter. Now, Nanboku, this is Minami and Kita, right? So it can mean many things, north, south, but really it's talking about, well, the water is flowing north and south. And if you watch the video, they do mention that it's a jujiro, it's a crossroads. So that means the water is kind of flowing. And I think the pipe is basically in the middle of the crossroads. So the water's flowing up north and the water's flowing down south for approximately 200 meters. 東西におよそ100メートルにわたって起きた冠水. Alright, so then we got the same thing here. 東西, so east and west. Again, it's kind of like a line going east and west. およそ approximately 100メートルにわたって. Now, wataru is to kind of cross or span something. You use this when you're talking about going across bridges and whatever. But watatte okita kansui. So this water that covered the road, it spread 200 meters or so north-south and about 100 meters or so east-west. 近所の人、膝下くらいまで、ここくらいまでは、この辺一帯は通れなくなっていたと思います。Now you can see basically this person in the video as well. 膝下くらいまで, so up until below the knee, and she's actually like lifting her leg up and using her hand on her leg to show her where it is. So when she says koko kurai made wa, she's really pointing to her leg. So koko is the reference to the point on her leg where the water reached. Kono hen is this area. Ittai, this is like a certain district, a certain area. So a certain area of the surrounding area wa torenaku natte ita. Now this comes from toru, which is the plain form of this verb, which is the negative potential. I've got a video on potentials if you want to watch it, if you don't understand what I'm talking about. But toreru, torenai, can't go through, right? You couldn't pass through. And again, if you watch the video, you'll see why. There's a lot of water. You can't really drive through that area. So torenaku natte ita. So it was unable to be passed through. To omoimasu, I think. 深いところで, so in the deep areas では膝下まで冠水したということです. Alright, so the deepest areas, it got up to just below that. It was completely covered with water up to just below the knee. So just backing up what this witness said. 周辺で働く人、1階で仕事していたから道路がどんどん川みたいになってきた. Yeah, so 1階で仕事していたから. Now, this is an easy thing to make a mistake with, but in Japan, kai is the number of floors, right? So ikkai is the first floor, but just be careful with this because this actually means the ground floor in Japan, okay? They have ikkai as the ground floor and then nikai the first floor kind of thing. Anyway, so ikkai de shikoto shite ita kara. So because I was working on the ground floor, doro ga dondon kawa mitai. So kawa mitai is say something looks like something. So dondon is kind of quickly, rapidly. So the road became looking like a river, okay? And again, look at the video. It definitely did look like that. 慌てて表に出たらこうなっていました. So they 慌てて表に. So omote is kind of the front of something as opposed to the back. So where the water is happening is the front of this building. So, and awatete, this is from awateru, which is to be like in a hurry or in a rush. So basically, they kind of rushed out to the front of the building. Detara, when I got out there, ko natte imashita. Now, when we add ko, so, a, or do to our verbs, it just becomes the verb this way. So ko naru, it became this way. All right. So basically, this person is maybe they're using their hands or they're actually standing at the place where it is and like, oh, then it became like this. So they're kind of showing the river or they're kind of doing something with their hands to show they look like a river. I'm guessing that they were actually there and they got interviewed and they just kind of pointed at the river. Hey, look, it's become like this now. 通報からおよそ1時間半. So it's about an hour and a half since the emergency services were notified. 現場から水が汲み出される作業が行われています。Now, genba again is where the water pipe burst or whatever. から水が, so the water is 汲み出される. Now, 汲み出す is to like scoop water out of something, to bail something out. So 汲み出される, it's the passive form, right? To be scooped out. 作業が行われています. So we see even now, it's probably still the construction workers, the people who were working on the pipe originally, but also the emergency services are there, but all that work is still referred to as 作業, okay? So the work that they're doing が行われています. It's occurring. So all these people are still trying to bail out water. 水はほぼ止まり排水作業が始まりました. So the water has basically been stopped. So obviously they found some valve or whatever to actually stop the water. And then 排水作業, 排水 is the removal of water. Whenever you see 排 in front of something, it's to exclude something. And 排水作業, so kind of they're pumping out the water now, bailing out the water still. が始まりました. It's begun. ただ周辺住民からは. But this is kind of saying, well, yeah, we're kind of pulling it out from the street, but what about from the people's houses, right? 近所の人、水道から泥水が出ている。とりあえず、今日はご飯は冷凍のものをチンして、あとはペットボトルと備蓄の水で何とかしようかなと。Alright, so とりあえず for the time being, 今日はご飯は冷凍のもの。Alright, so frozen food. And とりあえず, yeah, for the time being. So for the time being, today's meal will be frozen and チンして. This is a way to say microwave, right? So you microwave some frozen food. あとは, and then kind of after that, ペットボトル. So bottled water と備蓄の水, the kind of reserve water, backup water of some description. で、なんとかしようかな. So しようかな, like I'm wondering if I'll do something, and なんとか something or other. So basically I'll do something or other with the water that I have. 東京消防庁によりますと, according to the Tokyo Fire Department, これまでに怪我人などは出ていません. Now, 怪我人, well, it should be pretty self-explanatory. 怪我 is an injury. So 怪我人, an injured person. So これまで, until this point, 怪我人などは, so people, injured people, etc. は出ていません. We don't have any yet, but 床下浸水が一件起きているということです. Now, 床下 is below the floor. 浸水 is the kind of the entry of water. All right, water kind of seeping through the floor, under the floor. が一件, this is the counter for one house. 起きているということです. So basically, they've got a report from the area that one house already has kind of flood damage underneath the floorboards. Alright guys, that's it from me. Please give a like and subscribe to the video if you found it useful. Leave a comment if there's something you'd like to ask me. I do Japanese lessons through my website here, acejapanese.com. Use it to contact me and set up a time. Now the lessons will look something like this. I run through an article or a video or something similar. We go through all the grammar points, vocab, kanji, etc. and then explain it. And then I try and find similar examples if you don't get it, and then we'll run through it as well. But it really depends on what your goals are. I teach all kinds of people from school students who are looking to improve their marks for final exams. If you take Japanese at school, I also teach university students for the same basic reason. And I also teach a lot of non-students. So I call them my mature age students, but people who are just wanting to learn Japanese because they want to get more involved with the culture, maybe want to travel there one day or something like that. So if this interests you, please contact me through my website and we can go from there. So thanks again everyone for watching. じゃあねー。